Welcome to ESPN's presentation of college basketball and the 2021 NIT from North Texas. We are in Frisco for a first-round game between Western Kentucky out of Conference USA and St. Mary's out of the West Coast Conference. And as restrictions continue to ease around the state of Texas, we do have some fans in attendance for this game between the Hilltoppers and the Gales. And welcome everybody, along with two-time Patriot League scoring champion Chris Patola. I'm Doug Sherman. Glad you could join us tonight. And well, for these two teams, Chris, they didn't make the NCAA, but the NIT still leaves them plenty to play for.
Yeah, they're playing for a championship, Doug. You know, you count the 68 teams in the NCAA tournament, the 16 here in the NIT. That's 84 teams still playing basketball. The rest are at home. There's a championship to compete for here. You go after it, and there's certain both these teams will here tonight.
No doubt. Let's take a look at one half of the bracket to begin with. Who on this side jumps at you, Chris?
Well, you know, NC State has actually finished the season pretty well, given the injuries that they have. I think they'd have a chance of moving through this thing. And, you know, Memphis, a team we saw with Western Kentucky, St. Mary's in that tournament in South Dakota to open the year. We know their talent level is high. They get after you defensively. I could see them moving through. And then on the other side of the bracket, Doug, I like Mississippi State. We may have an upset here early. They have really good size up front, and that backcourt of Iverson Molinar and DJ Stewart is terrific. So I could see them moving forward past St. Louis here.
And the winner of that game gets the winner of what we just saw, Richmond taking out Toledo. Earlier today, we learned that this man, Charles Bassey of Western Kentucky, named third-team All-American by the United States Basketball Writers Association. And Chris, he is a handful.
He is on both ends. He was the player of the year and the defensive player of the year in the conference. Terrific on the block. He's an outstanding rebounder. And boy, does he change things at the rim. An outstanding shot blocker.
Now, the man who makes the Gales go is a fifth-year senior named Tommy Kuhse, a 6'2" point guard who was non-scholarship until this year. It's a remarkable story, Chris.
It is. He's what college hoops is all about. He's the general, the floor general for this team, a pass-first point guard. He's going to be key tonight running this offense against a pretty good perimeter man-to-man pressure from Western Kentucky.
The Gales in their white uniforms from Moraga, California, and the Hilltoppers in their red uniforms from Bowling Green, Kentucky, and from the sounds of it, they've got a few more fans in Frisco than the folks coming from California. We've got NIT action underway, the Hilltoppers and the Gales, Western Kentucky, with the basketball first. The Hilltoppers come in at 20-7 overall. Rick Stansbury, the head coach, said never considered declining the invite. We're going to come and play every basketball game we can, and he feels like his team is ready to go tonight. First shot, a little bit short by Jordan Rawls. And we got a late change in the starting five for St. Mary's, with Judah Brown getting the start in place of Kyle Bowen. Logan Johnson, keep your eye on number 0. He is a Cincinnati transfer and second team all West Coast Conference. Kuhse finds the cutter, Dan Fotu, and the Gales are on the board first.
And get used to this tempo. St. Mary's plays at one of the slowest tempos in the country, as they typically do. They're going to drain that shot clock, look to score late. 6 seconds on the shot clock when that bucket goes down.
Tommy Kuhse, fifth-year senior from Mesa, Arizona. Draws the contact and banks it home.
He's amazing. He's got a great layup package. You know, he's not much to look at. And what I mean by that is he's not Charles Bassey size, but he's so good in the lane, really creative, scoring at the rim in a number of different ways.
Well, Tommy Kuhse grew up in Arizona, but every summer would go to Moraga to attend Coach Bennett's summer camps. Layup by Davion McKnight, and the Toppers are on the board. But in so doing, he had this relationship with Coach Bennett because Tommy's father grew up with Randy Bennett in Mesa. And Coach Bennett didn't think he was Division I caliber, obviously not giving him a scholarship. There's Fotu again. He thought he was going to be a Division II player and tried to get him a Division II scholarship at other schools, but nobody bit. So Coach Bennett said, well, why don't you come play at St. Mary's? You can walk on and be part of the program. And here we are 4 or 5 years later, Chris. And again, he's the guy who makes this team go. Well, Randy Bennett in his 20th year. He's a graduate of UC San Diego, played a couple of years of Division I basketball, and there are a lot of similarities between him and Tommy Kuhse, both point guards, both from Mesa, Arizona, with a lot of family connections.
You know, the thing, too, this program, this St. Mary's program, just a long tradition of great point guards. You know, the Matthew Dellavedovas, the Patty Mills. Tommy Kuhse fits right in. Now, look, he's not going to be an NBA player, but in terms of his impact on this program and the person he is, what a career he's had.
His shot denied, turns into a break at the other end for the Hilltoppers. Tavion Hollingsworth. And there is Bassey in the lane to tie the game at 6.
And by the way, Doug, just to tie the bow on Tommy Kuhse, he does have the option to come back. Everybody granted in college basketball another year. So, I mean, he's already a redshirt senior. He's probably 28 years old. But, hey, nonetheless, why not come back at age 29?
Get a second master's degree. Why not? Shot clock down to 7. St. Mary's does exactly what it wants. Gets a layup by Dan Fotu. He's now got 6 of their 8 points.
And so much of what St. Mary's has to do offensively is generate shots at the rim. This is not a very good perimeter shooting St. Mary's team.
Here's Josh Anderson. He, like Tavion Hollingsworth, 4th-year seniors who have seen it all for the Hilltoppers. Kuhse. Nice pass. And the throwdown. Matthias Toss.
You always have to be aware of where Bassey is when you drive that ball into the paint. Bassey came over hard to throw Kuhse's shot into the 5th row, and Kuhse just a really smart, crafty pass.
Chris, at this end, how do you see St. Mary's defending and trying to limit Bassey?
Well, I think they're going to run a number of different bodies at him. Randy Bennett telling us they're going to look to double team him. Most teams in Conference USA double Bassey.
Here they double toss. Now Toss sets the ball screen for Kuhse. Pass to the corner, open look for Logan Johnson. Nothing but net.
Talk about a guy who not necessarily came out of nowhere. As you said earlier, transfer from Cincinnati. I think they wanted to redshirt him. He wanted to play, and thank goodness he did. Their leading scorer, and really the one guy who could create for them.
Toss able to track down the long pass. Thinks about it, but gives the shot up. Stepping into the 3, Fotu. Into the lane, tough runner. Hollingsworth no, tries again and puts it in. Timeout from the St. Mary's bench, and we'll take our first break of the night.
Tommy Kuhse in the pick and roll. He's so good. Just an early screen. You drive, watch Bassey come over to try to block. What a heads-up pass. You get your big guy a dunk.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of the NIT is brought to you by Behr Ultra Scuff Defense, the paint that's too tough to scuff. This is the 50th anniversary of Western Kentucky's 1971 Final Four team that would beat Kentucky, Kansas, and Ohio State in the NCAA tournament, lost the national semifinal to Villanova in double overtime at the Astrodome in Houston. All-American Jim McDaniel scored a tournament-best 147 points. Of course, UCLA won the championship that year. But the legacy of that Western Kentucky team back in '71, Chris, They were the first non-historically black college in the state of Kentucky to start 5 African Americans: McDaniels, Jerry Dunn, Jim Rose, Clarence Glover, and Rex Bailey. And despite significant backlash, head coach John Oldham stuck to his guns, despite the hate mail, despite the death threats, and despite offering his resignation to the Western Kentucky Board of Regents, who were trying to stop him from playing 5 black players. He persevered. The players did so, and now 50 years later we can continue to celebrate what was a tremendous winter in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
No question about it. It's an incredible story. I was reading some about it last night. I mean, just a story of courage, of principle. It's an incredible story for those who are hearing it for the first time.
Well, to give you some context, CCNY in 1950 was the first integrated national champ. Of course, you had the University of San Francisco in 55 and 56, led by Bill Russell and K.C. Jones. It was the Texas Western team in 1966 that was the first all-black starting 5, beating Adolph Rupp's all-white Kentucky Wildcats, by the way. Mid-60s, UCLA had Walt Hazzard, Lou Alcindor. But it wasn't until 1971 when Western Kentucky put it all together, and unfortunately, the head coach, John Oldham, passed away in November at the age of 97, and so all season long, the Hilltoppers have been wearing commemorative patches on their uniform to remember Coach Oldham and his courage, as well as all of their exploits on the court. But that's not a bad couple of weeks of basketball when you can say you beat blue bloods like Kentucky and Kansas and Ohio State. Current version of the Toppers in their NIT opener, trailing St. Mary's. Tommy Kuzi misfires. About the only thing not going right at this end for the Gales, who are on a 7-0 run. And there is Rick Stansbury in his 5th year as head coach out of Campbellsville University, class of 1981. And of course, he had a long run at Mississippi State. But one thing he's always been able to do, Chris, is recruit, and that's what he has done to the Hill over the last 5 years.
He has. They had a crushing loss. As Bassey finishes with the dunk. They had a crushing loss in their conference tournament to North Texas. They got down 17-0 to start the game. They ended up holding North Texas to 14 points in the second half. Only 14 points. They lost that game by 4 in overtime. And we asked Rick Stansbury yesterday, how do you get your team off the mat emotionally to come and compete in the NIT? And he said, look, there is nothing I can say or do to take away that pain or that hurt. Here's the penetration, and Bassey does such a nice job of playing off. You know, it's very hard to figure out where to bring help from. The freshman Saxon comes over. He was on Bassey. What a year the big fella has. I mean, you can't overstate it, Doug. What a year Charles Bassey has had. He has loaded up the stat sheet. He's taken home the individual hardware in terms of awards. What a year he's had.
He was a top 10 or 15 recruit coming out of high school at Aspire Academy in Louisville, and he'll be honest, you know, he said, I did not at all see myself as a 3-year college player, but he had a really good freshman year, but wasn't ready for the NBA. Had a serious leg injury as a sophomore, but now as a junior, it's all come together. He and the Toppers down 3 to the Gales. Time in the NIT's 83-year history, the champions will not be crowned in New York City. No. Madison Square Garden played host since the tournament's inception in 1938, but because of the pandemic, the field's been cut in half down to 16. All of those teams convened in North Texas, and so half are playing where we are tonight in Frisco. The others are in Denton, Texas, playing on the campus of North Texas. But the Mean Green don't need their gym. They are in Indianapolis for the NCAA tournament, so they will play all the games in North Texas. No New York City feel, and it's really something, Chris, because the NIT has been New York-centric right from the beginning.
Yeah, and it's one of the cool things, no slight to Texas. It is one of the cool things about the NIT to be able to take a trip for those semis and championship to New York City. But the one thing I love, Doug, I love that the NCAA tournament this year, and I realize it's because of the pandemic, and probably not doable if you bring fans and all teams to one location. But I love that it's all in the same place. And I love that this is all being done here in the same place. I think it's a really cool thing for both tournaments.
Yeah, as a one-off for each of them, I think it's really, really neat. But at the same time, I really look forward to getting back to normal in that regard, where the tournaments are spread around the country. And for the NIT, you've got the campus sites. You know, the tournament, the NIT used to be all in New York City. But then over the years, they wound up having the earlier rounds played on campus, and that's how it's been right up until last year, or 2 years ago, because we didn't have an NIT last year. So it's not unprecedented to have all the teams come to one place, just, well, a couple thousand miles to the south and west, as opposed to Madison Square Garden. Well, St. Mary's got off to a great start shooting the basketball, made 6 of their first 7, then missed their next 4. That follow-up by toss gives the Gales a 3-point lead once again.
It's not like Western Kentucky plays super fast, but this game so far decidedly at St. Mary's favor. And part of the reason is they're shooting 50%. When the ball goes through the basket, it's hard to force tempo in any one direction if you're Western Kentucky.
Luke Frampton is one of the few Hilltoppers that you have to get a hand up for when he squares up on the perimeter. An excellent three-point shooter at 41% on the year, but over the last 19 games, after a rough start from his transfer in from Davidson, he's been shooting nearly 50% from 3. There's a three-pointer rattled in by Kyle Bowen, the sophomore from Perth, Australia.
St. Mary's was the worst three-point shooting team in the West Coast Conference this year. But those shots are going to be there for that reason. Western Kentucky helping off that corner on penetration. St. Mary's got some open looks to start this game.
Nifty bank shot by Davion McKnight, the freshman point guard from Shelbyville, Kentucky. Here's Kuzi, the 5th-year senior point guard, picking up another assist. He's dropping dimes all over the place, and again it's tossed with a layup. That is already 4 assists for Kuzi. Foul on the rebound.
It's the pick and roll. You know, they run this weave action to drain some clock and get the defense moving. A lot of east-west, and then they hit you with that screen roll. And Kozart there just did not defend that well. He's not really comfortable in the screen roll. And again, Matthias Toss, the beneficiary from a Tommy Kuzi, good find.
And Isaiah Kozart, the sophomore from Richmond, Kentucky, is likely to play an expanded role tonight because the Hilltoppers are without their starting power forward Carson Williams, who, according to Rick Stansberry, is the ultimate team player, but he has stepped away from the basketball team to give it a go in the NFL, and we'll tell you his story a little bit later on. But with that, the Hilltoppers are going a little deeper into their bench for this first round game. The NCAA Division I Women's Basketball Tournament gets underway Sunday with first-round coverage beginning at noon Eastern. For more information, go to ncaa.com, your official online home of all 90 NCAA championships. With Chris Patola, I'm Doug Sherman. A couple of free throws for the Hilltoppers, and that is one thing that Coach Stansberry teams usually do well. Not only get to the line, but shoot it well, and it's an equation that a lot of coaches and basketball thinkers over the years, Chris, have harped on, that if you not only take more foul shots than your opponent, but like the Hilltoppers this year, they make more than their opponents take, you're going to win an awful lot of games.
Yeah, there's no question about it. It's been a huge part of their offense this year. And like you said, it helps when you make them, and it helps when your big guy does. Charles Basti has been outstanding from the foul line, and it makes it a lot harder to defend that because he can't just lay wood on him and say, go earn it from the foul line. A terrific foul shooter, and once he gets it that close, position with him is so key. You allow him to catch it deep, he's going to bury you.
Kuzi hesitates off the screen, always under control. Finds the open man, Alex Dukas. And it's Hilltoppers basketball. In they go to Bassi. Triple team comes, foul called, and Bassi will shoot a pair of free throws. So we'll take a break, and the junior from Nigeria will have 2 free throws on the other side.
Most anything that St. Mary's runs offensively is going to end with a Tommy Kuzi ball screen. Started his day with a layup and has tacked on 4 assists since. And it's that screen roll. He's very good at holding his dribble, carrying it, dragging the defenders with him. And those big guys are so good at rolling hard right to the front of the rim because they know that that guy, Tommy Kuzi, is going to deliver it on time and on the money.
Last year as a 4th-year junior, he played more minutes than any other walk-on in the entire country and finally convinced his head coach, Randy Bennett, to put him on scholarship. And he is just remarkable. And again, Randy Bennett has known him since he was born. Tommy Kuzi's father, Craig, friends with Coach Bennett back in the day at Mesa, Arizona. Thought he was a Division II player, thought no way he's going to be a Division I player, but sure, you can come walk on. I'll foster your kid. I love this kid. I'll have him come and play for me or sit on the end of the bench, whatever. And his will and improvement turned him into somebody he couldn't leave on the bench any longer and couldn't keep off scholarship any longer.
Well, you and I had them to start the season in that tournament in South Dakota. And this was a team, you know, they're trying to play without Jordan Ford this year. It was a team that was really on the rebuild. They go very young off of their bench. And Tommy Kuzi was the guy in that tournament early for them. They got a big win against Northern Iowa. He ended up hitting a game winner in that. So, you know, his veteran leadership and his poise and presence, I thought even going back to this beginning of the season, got them off to a good start.
Looks like Luke Frampton perhaps is injured for the Hilltoppers. Just went running off the court underneath the basket. There he is. But you're right. I mean, St. Mary's, Chris, got off to a 9-2 start to the year, won 8 in a row. And then they had the first of 2 COVID pauses. And like so many teams around the country, Bassi with a block shot as the shot clock expires. So it's a turnover back to the Hilltoppers. But, you know, as we see another angle, every school has had to deal with some sort of stop and start, and most have suffered the side effects, and the Gales certainly have had that. They lost a combined 5 games in a row coming out of their 2 pauses. Now the shot clock violation. And so, you know, that is really hard to overcome. It's St. Mary's went 14-6 this year, and they have historically over the last 20 years in Coach Bennett's tenure been able to beat a lot of good teams, and they still have that potential. And they are coming off a 9-day break since getting knocked out by Gonzaga in the West Coast Conference Tournament. And he said that break this time was good because they are whole. They were able to practice and scrimmage largely healthy. And for guys like Alex Dukas, who missed 8 weeks during the regular season with a high ankle sprain, and then because of a quarantine, he was able to put together 8 or 9 days of practice and scrimmage time where he's really starting his season anew here in the NIT. Another block shot for the Hilltoppers.
So you're right. His instincts, Charles Bassi's instincts for shot blocking are outstanding. And I don't care, you know, again, he was the player of the year in the conference. He's been terrific offensively. He's gonna play for a long time in the NBA because of that ability. And every NBA team is looking for rim protection. And when you combine his ability to block shots with everything else he does, this young man's going to have a long and prosperous professional career.
Fotu misfires on the inbound. Yeah, Bassi is 4th in the country, 1st in Conference USA in block shots per game, well over 3 per game. Nice find for Jordan Rawls. Misfires and a whistle and a foul this time on Charles Bassi.
And he's relentless on the glass. I mean, that's the other thing. You know, just never stops.
And I mentioned he had a serious leg injury last year. As Kuzi drains the three, draws St. Mary's back within a pair. And in the game that you and I had against Memphis back in South Dakota, he just was dominant. A career-high 7 block shots to go along with 21 points, 14 rebounds, and his teammates afterward were saying to Bassy, bro, you're back.
Right.
You know, that leg injury is now a thing of the past. You're good to go.
Well, and how about Rick Stansbury saying to us yesterday, when it initially happened, there were questions of whether or not he'd play basketball again. I mean, that's how severe the leg injury was.
Yeah, just if we told you it's a tibial plateau fracture, that in and of itself scares the daylights out of me. But his left leg is fully healed. The surgeons did a wonderful job, and it has certainly shown this year. Hollingsworth for three.
He really is. You know, he's just a savvy guard, Tavion Hollingsworth. He's played a lot of college basketball, a 4-year veteran, been in a lot of big games. If Charles Bassby is the Batman, Tavion Hollingsworth is Robin, and he is an old school bucket man.
Second team all-conference, making his 130th career start in this game tonight. And there he is again, already into double figures, and the lead stretches to 9.
I love it. I love his game. Everything about Tavion Hollingsworth's game, man. He's got all the shots.
With the first 4, coverage begins 4 Eastern with the pregame show on True TV and 6 Eastern on TBS. Every game of the tournament is on TBS, CBS, TNT, and True TV, or you can stream games on the March Madness Live app. With Chris Patola, I'm Doug Sherman. Comerica Center in Frisco, Texas, one of the 2 sites in North Texas hosting the 2021 National Invitation Tournament. 1 game already in the books tonight. Richmond eliminated Toledo 76-66. And the winner of this game will advance to face the winner of the Ole Miss-Louisiana Tech game that will be played tomorrow night. Also on ESPN2. Check that, day after tomorrow. They will play Friday night, excuse me. Rawls, McKnight, and Anderson around the perimeter. Bassy sets the screen. Rawls drives strong to the bucket. Kuzi absorbs the contact. And the foul against Davion McKnight. And now our under 4 media timeout with Western Kentucky up by 9.
That's just how you are in studio. I mean, you're just echoing how you feel about how you should be talking in studio. Kevin Connors, get the ball to Seth Greenberg. Can you get it to the big guy?
Well, you know what? Tavion Hollingsworth might just be warming up with his game-high 13 points. He put 43 on Louisiana Tech last year. He's closing in on 1,900 career points, 5th all-time in program history.
He's got all the shots. And, you know, to be honest, he hasn't shot it well of late in their last 3 games. Only 7 of 22. He wasn't great against North Texas. he and Bassey struggled against North Texas. It's a big part of why they lost.
Hollingsworth behind the play, looks like he's okay. Bassey's going to pick up the foul, and that is his second personal. Yeah, Hollingsworth only 165 pounds, 6'2", from Lexington, Kentucky. He's the all-time leading scorer in high school history in the city of Lexington. And he has been through it all with this program. He and his best friend, another four-year teammate, Josh Anderson, are really trying to extend their careers. And as you pointed out rightly, Chris, with the NCAA ruling back in November that this is a free year, they both could come back next year. But it seems like a lot of seniors who have had good careers aren't going to take advantage of that. They have been looking forward to getting their degree, moving on, and starting their professional basketball career if that's something they can do.
Judah Brown here at the line, a freshman. He's the fourth of 7 siblings. And it was funny, Judah Brown, we had to quarantine when the pandemic first started. He was homeschooled most of his life. All 7 siblings, homeschooled most of their life. He's the middle of them all. He said quarantine wasn't so bad. We're used to being around each other. We've been homeschooled for most of our lives.
I wonder what his parents would say about that.
I don't think they liked it as much as the siblings.
Well, Judah getting the start tonight. And he is somebody who put 16 points on Gonzaga, #1 Gonzaga earlier this year for his career high. Another part of why St. Mary's is for them only 14-9. They had to play Gonzaga 3 times this year, and 2 of those times were coming out of extended COVID pauses. So that's a quick 0-3 right there.
For anybody in the league.
Or around the country.
Or around the country.
But obviously, over the course of the last couple of decades, as Gonzaga has ascended, so too has St. Mary's, and they've been the 1A to the Zags 1 in that conference. But there's just such a separation now with the Zags and everybody else. There's Josh Anderson, senior from Baton Rouge, now with 5 points. Kuzi, head up, finds a teammate, and it leads to another 2 points for Dan Fotu.
What a pass by Kuzi.
Good looking stroke by Josh Anderson, give him 2 in a row, and he's got a quick 8, the lead back to 11.
And I think coming in, scattering report, you're okay with Anderson taking those shots. Not a great perimeter shooter, more of an athletic slasher type. You definitely want to give him some space. He buries 2.
Here comes Hollingsworth. Offensive foul. Tavion not so sure, but getting no relief, looking from one official to the other, still pleading his case.
And I'm with him. That's not a charge. That's a fall down when your shoulder gets brushed.
That's kind of the way you and I would play defense.
Well, all you have to do is blow on me, and I'm going down, no question. And you, I don't even think, you just fall at the sight of
just look at me. Right. Just to say the fact that I would be playing defense in the first place is laughable. Logan Johnson gets the roll. 6'2" junior from Mountain View, California. Draws the Gales back to within 9. Final 45 seconds of the half. Jordan Rawls from the foul line, no. Grabbed by Dukas. Shot clock off, and the Gales look like they're content to hold for a final shot. The winner of this will advance to the quarterfinals to face the winner of Friday's Ole Miss Louisiana Tech game. Kuzi with 5 seconds. Johnson under the bucket. Kuzi just has to put it up. And in! He beats the buzzer for 2 more.
You know, they were down 11, Doug. That's a 4-point swing to end the half to close it to 7. We'll see what they do to start the half, but these are those silent runs people talk about. What a finish to the half by St. Mary's, and what a shot by Kuzi.
The crafty veteran beats the buzzer and makes it a 7-point game at the intermission. We've reached halftime, and we send it back to the studio with Seth and Luke. Here's Kevin Connors. To ESPN's presentation of college basketball and the 2021 NIT from North Texas. The Comerica Center in Frisco, Texas, the site of this first-round game between Western Kentucky and St. Mary's. The Hilltoppers up 7, but late in that first half, they led by as many as 11. Doug Sherman with Chris Patola. And it was cooking there for a while for the Hilltoppers, but the Gales scored a couple of quick buckets right before the break, and we've got ourselves a ball game.
We do, and they get the ball to start the second half here. But how about Tavian Hollingsworth? 13 points, his season average in the first half. Got the float skis going there, the 3-ball, and then driving the ball to the basket, all 3 levels. He had a terrific first half, but this was that bucket to end the half, a 4-point run. You know, one of those Bill Belichick silent runs we could have here. This was a shot to end the half. St. Mary's was down 11, had a bucket before that, and then a flyer there for Tommy Kuzi to cut it to 7. They get the ball to start the second half. Will be interesting. They score. That's one of those silent point runs, 6-point runs here to close that gap.
The float skis?
You like that?
Is that like a relative of the jet skis or something? I've never heard float skis.
Well, you don't have one in your game, Doug.
Well,
if you did, they would call it a float ski.
This is true. I bet you that man has a float ski. That is 6 unanswered points by St. Mary's. The last 4 points by Kuzi, and we've got ourselves a 5-point ball game. Here's Hollingsworth. He's 14th on the career active all-time scoring list. Again, closing in on 1,900 career points for the senior out of Paul Lawrence Dunbar High School in Lexington. Kuzi lost it, gets it back. Always under control. Corner 3 by Fotu. He had the hot hand early for the Gales. This is the only man in double figures so far tonight. Hollingsworth with 13 points on 5 of 10 shooting. Jordan Rawls gets the friendly roll.
I think that was David McKnight, the freshman.
You are correct.
Really haven't said his name much, but the lefty, he and Hollingsworth, both lefty guards.
McKnight made the all-freshman team in Conference USA. 3 missed by Judah Brown, getting the start again here in the second half for St. Mary's. Hollingsworth, he's got a lot of fun in his game.
He really does. And that's not quite a float ski, but it's borderline float ski.
A run ski, maybe? Can you put a ski on any kind of shot?
Doug, let me handle the skis, all right?
All right,
stay in your lane.
Fotu, no. Bassey with the rebound. It's been fairly quiet for him in that department. Only his 5th rebound tonight. Comes in among the national leaders in a bunch of categories, including 11.7 rebounds per game, 3.5 blocks per game, nearly 18 points per game. And there's that shot blocking ability, making sure that Logan Johnson didn't go after him. And it leads to a turnover.
You know, the toss is looking at Fotu like, what are you doing? Possession is the most important thing there. It was a bad pass, but sometimes you got to give up position to get possession. And Toss had Bassi on his back, and he didn't want to move because it was going to take him out of position to score. But in that case, possession's most important. You end up with a turnover because you're not willing to give up the position that you have.
Here's Bassi. Working on Toss. Here comes the double team. 10 to shoot. Hollingsworth no. Bassi picks it out of the air and draws the foul. Well, you know, the part of Bassi's game that we haven't yet seen tonight, Chris, that is markedly better than it was when he arrived on campus was the fact that he now has a jump shot, and that was a byproduct of his hard work while he was rehabbing that broken leg. Because he couldn't run, he couldn't jump, all he could do was stand on the court and practice his form. He is so much better now than he was.
Yeah, it's a great point, Doug. He's much better top of the key. But what it's allowed them to do is you can pick and pop him now. And so it's given, you know, part of the problem for Western Kentucky is their spacing has been eaten into during the year because they're not a great perimeter shooting team. And so teams have figured out you can kind of help off of McKnight and Anderson to be able to take up Bassi's space. But if you can now pick and pop him where he's a threat to shoot, it creates more driving opportunities for those guards.
Traveling violation. He doesn't shoot it a ton, but up to 32%. And so for your rim protecting big to shoot at that level, that is more than acceptable. This is Davion McKnight at the point out of Collins High School, Shelbyville, Kentucky. Here is Bassi. Trying to take Toss off the bounce, didn't have it that time. Gales down 10, looking to make another push. First 4 minutes of the second half in Frisco, Texas. Kuzi, he draws the foul and will shoot a pair of free throws.
You know, he wants to drive. And Hollingsworth actually closed out short knowing that. Kuzi, a very reluctant shooter, but Kuzi still crafty enough to draw some contact on his way.
Well, the NCAA Division I Women's Basketball Tournament gets underway Sunday with first-round coverage beginning at noon Eastern. For more information, go to ncaa.com, your official online home of all 90 NCAA championships. And, Chris, we should point out that foul was on Hollingsworth, and that is his third. Kuzi the steal. Lefty pass, streaking teammate. And Logan Johnson will head to the free throw line. Western Kentucky threatening to pull away, but the Gales just hanging around. ESPN's exclusive presentation of the NIT is brought to you by Pizza Hut. Order today at pizzahut.com. Charles Bassi and the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky with an 8-point lead early second half of the NIT. And let's get Mike Schmidt's take, our NBA draft analyst, on the pro future of Mr. Bassi.
Charles Bassi is a potential late first-round pick largely because of his combination of physical tools and production at just 20 years old. You look at the physical profile, 6'11", 240 pounds, NBA-ready body, 7'3" wingspan, very mobile for a player his size, and then the sheer numbers, averaging over 23 points, 15 rebounds, 4 blocks on a per 40-minute basis. He's a beast on the offensive glass. He's modernized his game a little bit with a 32% clip from 3, and he's showing that he can step away from the rim a little bit and switch ball screens. Still has room to improve his defensive motor, consistency on that end of the floor, has a tendency to settle a little bit for perimeter jump shots, still needs to improve as a facilitator, but at 20 years old, the physical profile, the sheer productivity has him in that late first, mid-second conversation in this 2021 NBA draft.
And keep in mind, Charles Bassi was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school 3 years ago in that same class as Zion Williamson and R.J. Barrett. And the idea when he got to Western Kentucky was that Bassi was going to be a one-and-done guy like that. wasn't the case. Running his own race, and he's still going to find his way into the NBA. We'll talk more about Charles Bassey after this timeout. Well, Charles Bassey joined the likes of Kenyon Martin and Dwayne Wade as those who have won Conference USA Player of the Year and Defensive Player of the Year in the same season. Bassey did that this season, as we were just hearing from Mike Schmitz, projected as a late first-round pick, assuming he comes out this year. And as I was saying going to that last break, Chris, while he may not have been Zion or RJ in that same class, he's running his own race and has overcome an injury to still get himself into a tremendous spot whenever he decides to go to the NBA.
Yeah, Rick Stansbury telling us he's a much better player post-injury than he even projected to be before. That's, to your point, a testament to how he's worked. Because of the tempo in this game, the thing he does best we haven't been able to see, and that's run the floor. You know, it's amazing how fast he runs rim to rim and how productive he can be. We haven't really seen that tonight. But the expansion of his game, the perimeter shot he's added, I mean, he's got the full package. What a season he's had.
Clean look, deep three. Alex Dukas, money.
Guy that's been in and out of the lineup this year, Alex Dukas from Australia. Was offered, he played really well at the FIBA Under-19 World Cup in Greece. Had 11 or 12 scholarship offers, Alex Dukas, but the pull of Patty Mills and Matthew Dellavedova was too much. Drew the Australian to St. Mary's.
Yeah, one of 21 Australians now to have suited up over the years for Randy Bennett and the Gales. That one didn't quite go down, but Tavion Hollingsworth will head to the free throw line.
And again, it's penetration from Tommy Kuzi that creates these shot opportunities.
And as I mentioned in that first half, Coach Bennett said Alex Dukas, as much as anybody on his team, has benefited from the 8 days between the WCC tournament and this NIT opener, because he missed a lot of time due to a high ankle sprain, plus a 10-day quarantine, missing 8 weeks total. Came back for the conference tournament, but the scrimmaging and the working out with his teammates over the last week and a half, he says he's really picked up his game and found his rhythm much better than he would have a couple of weeks ago.
Do you remember when we had them to start the year in South Dakota? I asked you how many states there are in Australia.
Uh-oh.
Do you remember the number?
Oh, no.
Quiz.
I don't even
Pop
remember
quiz,
my middle name some days. Oh, gosh. I remember the conversation. About the only thing I remember from our conversations about states was me telling you I made the drive to North Dakota to get all 50 in the United States checked off my body. That's the only conversation I really remember. And you killing me, by the way. And that's a way of saying,
Logan,
again, I do not remember how many states there are in Australia.
I bet Logan Johnson knows as he drives strong to the basket. There are 6 states, Doug, in Australia. New South Wales, Queensland, Southern Australia,
Oh, yeah.
Tasmania, which is the smallest of the 6 states,
Home of the
Victoria,
Uh-huh.
and Western Australia, which is where Geraldton is, and that's where Alex Dukas is from, Western Australia. Can you take some notes so the next time I ask you, you have this?
Well, I got to cut you. Logan Johnson is from Mountain View, California. Why would he know there are 6 states in Australia?
Because it's his teammate. Unlike you being my teammate, not remembering things I say, I'm sure he remembers that.
Teammates would have acknowledged what a wonderful achievement I had making it to 50 states. And I got quite the opposite response from you.
That was lame. That did not count as visiting a state, what you did to visit North Dakota.
I'll send you the pictures again. No call. Johnson finds his teammate for the easy layup. And the Gales are back to within 6 points on the layup by Mitchell Saxon. Here's Anderson, quick first step, spins into the paint. Ooh. He's got some moves in him. That's 10 points now for the senior from Baton Rouge.
Another guy who plays his roles, had a really good year. Such a good athlete. If there was a dunk contest this year, Josh Anderson would be in the top 5. Just a great athlete.
Well, they've lost track of how many times he's been on SportsCenter over the course of the last 4 years. It's at least a half a dozen times with the dunks that Josh Anderson can do.
And that's a scouting report foul right there. That's what Frampton does. The majority of his shots are from that three-point line. He's one of the better shooters in the league. And he comes off Western Kentucky's bench. One of the best shooters in Conference USA, comes off of their bench. But really good finding that line in transition. And you know he's a shooter. It's been drilled into your head in scouting, and just a little too aggressive there on the closeout.
Well, he's got his name next to none other than Steph Curry. I mean, he's a Davidson transfer who's the only other Davidson Wildcat ever to make 100 or more threes in a single season. There's Steph Curry and there's Luke Frampton. So he can put it up. He can get it in there. His season high this year, 22 points against Tennessee Tech, and in that game, 6 of 9 from beyond the arc. His free throw makes it 54-44, Western Kentucky on top. Saxon in trouble. And I believe a timeout was called. Indeed, I think his captain, fifth-year senior teammate, Tommy Kuzi, saw his freshman buddy in trouble and called for the timeout to save the possession. We'll take a break with 11:54 remaining in regulation. West Conference, and as one of the #1 seeds in the 2021 NIT, they will play Friday against Buffalo on ESPN2. And as we've talked about tonight, Chris Spatola, for a team like the Rams, who are one of those potential substitute teams if one of the NCAA teams had to bail for COVID reasons, they've got to completely refocus and get themselves ready for that Buffalo team out of the MAC, or they're going to be one and done and be out of this NIT.
No question. It was interesting to hear Rick Stansbury talk about the dynamics of being in the NIT yesterday. He said, you've got one of two teams that are disappointed to be in it because they felt like they should be in the NCAA tournament, like Western Kentucky losing to North Texas in overtime, taking them out of that opportunity, and then teams that are happy to be here, teams that didn't have a great season, kind of like a St. Mary's, 4-6 in conference, a lot of COVID pauses, not a great year. Hey, we get to keep our season alive and keep playing. It was interesting to hear him say that, and of course we asked, well, how do you get your team after that loss to North Texas? How do you get them prepared to play in the NIT? He said, anytime you get a chance to compete, you do it. And that's why we're here. We're competing for a championship, and we feel like we're good enough to win the NIT championship.
And Coach Stansbury is not a guy who takes losses lightly. I mean, a couple of years ago in the Conference USA tournament, played in Texas, another crushing defeat. And rather than waiting for the flight back to Kentucky the next day, he hopped in his car after the game and drove the 12 hours back because he just couldn't stand to go back to his hotel room and stew over it until the morning. And by the way, the Hilltoppers have been in Frisco, Texas now for several days because this is not the same building, but in this city is where the Mean Green of North Texas cut down the nets and earned their way into the NCAA tournament. And Western Kentucky was one of the other teams left on the outside looking in. And I give the Hilltoppers all the credit in the world for scheduling the way they did. I mean, they played a tough schedule, as we saw, to start the year in Sioux Falls. They added the game at Houston. Credit to the Cougars for taking that game. Houston won it easily. But this Western Kentucky team, led by Charles Bassey, went to Tuscaloosa and beat an Alabama team that went on to win the SEC tournament and could easily find its way to the Final Four this year. So this Western Kentucky team has been tested, and they've got a lot of good wins in their 20 wins this season. And we saw Bassey come back in. He's performed very well against those big boys. West Virginia, Louisville, Alabama, and Memphis. Against those four opponents, Bassey averaged 19, 12.5, and nearly 4 blocks per game. Air ball on that one, though. Out of bounds, back to St. Mary's.
Toss has done a nice job on him, though. You know, every time they've thrown it to him on the block, most of the time, Toss has done a nice job. I mean, look, Toss is 6'10", so he's not giving up much length or size to Bassey, but he's done a nice job keeping his feet, staying big, forcing a tough shot.
Here's Toss from the high post. Pulls the trigger. Give him 2 more. Anderson hands it off. McKnight tries to turn the corner. Back into the game, Tavion Hollingsworth, no. Hollingsworth playing with those 3 fouls. Kuzi works the baseline, finds Toss again. That's his 8th assist of the night.
His deception is outstanding. He knew where he wanted to go. He knew Toss, and he was going to throw it to Toss 3 seconds before he did it. But his deception to look to the corner, to get the defense to shift just a little bit, gave him that window to drop it off to Toss.
10 to shoot.
Here's that jumper, and Bassey shaming him, saying, I don't think you can shoot that. Toss says, okay, my friend, here's a wet one. And then that's that pass where Kuzi's so good at keeping his dribble. And even when he gets along that baseline, he still keeps his dribble. And a really good pass, just has great vision.
And in case you haven't noticed the spelling of Tommy Kuzi's last name, it is not the same as the Hall of Famer Bob Cousy. No relation there. He spells it Kuhsey. Again, the 5th-year senior on scholarship this year for the first time. Misfires on the 3. That's the one weak spot for this St. Mary's team. Only 29% as a squad on 3-pointers this year. Hollingsworth back into the scoring column. Deflected out of bounds by Jordan Rawls. He is a Stansbury, Coach Stansbury legacy. Jordan Rawls' father, Keith, started Austin Peay in the late 80s when Rick Stansbury was an assistant coach there under Lake Kelly. In 88-89, Jordan Rawls' father averaged 19.5 points per game, and in one game, Chris, he dropped 28 points on Kentucky at Freedom Hall.
It was funny, you asked him yesterday to compare Jordan and his dad, and he said Jordan can dribble and he sees everything. He says his dad couldn't dribble and didn't see anybody.
Yeah, but Dad could shoot, Dad could score, said he was a physical monster and still very supportive of his son. Comes to a lot of games. And there is a dunk by the number 2 slam dunker in the country by volume. 59-52, Western Kentucky. Kuzi. Bassey again.
And that's his strength, Doug. I'm telling you, the best thing that Bassey does is run the floor. Rim to rim. And that's not a given with a lot of big guys.
This time on the receiving end of a beautiful pass, it's toss to Kuzi. Yeah, just when you think Tommy Kuzi isn't a big scorer, he averages nearly 13 per game. And he had a career-high 34 points against a good Eastern Washington team back in December, a team that's now in the NCAA tournament field of 68. But make no mistake, he is a pass-first point guard in the truest sense.
No question. He's a reluctant shooter, but when he, and his numbers aren't great, but he's very good finishing around the basket. If he's wide open, he'll pull the trigger. And in big spots, he can hit that shot.
There he is finding Toss, who's made only 3 3-pointers on the year. Give him 4, and the Gales have drawn to within 4. Bassey again, had the position on Toss, and he's going to have a chance for 3.
He's starting to heat up. He's starting to get hot. Charles Bassey, the first-round pick at some point. Catching lobs and running the floor. This is what he does best. Just run the floor, big fella. We're going to feed you up top.
Season without its starting power forward. Carson Williams, a redshirt senior from Owenton, Kentucky, has left the team to pursue a career in the NFL. Now, mind you, he's not played football since junior high school, but he's 6'5", 240 pounds. And the Western Kentucky football program has its pro day on campus for NFL scouts to come and look on April 1st. And he's going to give it a shot, either as a tight end, a defensive end, an offensive lineman. I'm guessing he's sitting watching the game right now, drinking a protein shake, looking to get that weight up from 240 and get himself into football shape. And Rick Stansbury was quick to point out repeatedly in our visit last night that this is not a selfish move on Carson's part at all. He has our approval. We've encouraged him to do it. If we had made the NCAA tournament, it probably wouldn't even have come up. But he is so excited about the possibility that Carson Williams, who wasn't going to play professionally in basketball, has a real chance to give it a go in the NFL.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Good for him. You know, I talked to a couple coaches in the league in Conference USA about Western Kentucky, and the first thing they said about Carson Williams, he should be playing football. And that's before they knew the news that he was actually going to do this. Two coaches in the league said, I'll tell you, he'd be much better suited playing football. As good as he is at basketball, he's a heck of a physical specimen.
Well, his teammates holding on to a 3-point lead with 5.5 minutes remaining in this opening round game of the National Invitation Tournament. Hollingsworth was fouled, and there's precedent, of course, for this if Carson Williams wants to get himself into the NFL. Following in the footsteps of former Western Kentucky All-Sun Belt Conference forward George Fant, who went from 6'5", 250-pound power forward to now a 322-pound veteran NFL offensive lineman. He played 1 year as a fifth-year senior at Western Kentucky. Didn't get drafted, but spent 4 years with the Seahawks and turned that into, Chris, a 3-year, $30 million contract last year with the New York Jets.
Good on him. Well, there's a long line of guys who have done it. You know, Jimmy Graham, who was at Miami. Obviously, Tony Gonzalez. Who was the guy at Kent State who played?
Antonio Gates.
There you go.
Yeah, Julius Peppers out of Carolina, Rico Gathers, Baylor, Mo Alley Cox more recently out of VCU. So, and that's just a scratch in the surface of what's been a long list, and NFL teams are aware of it. They profile these guys. They can see guys who have the physical qualities, good hands, and turn them into NFL tight ends. And of course, I got to throw in, they don't quite fit that profile, but Terrell Owens played both sports at Chattanooga. As we take another look at the foul. And then, of course, Donovan McNabb was on the Syracuse basketball team that played in the Final Four, lost to Kentucky in the '96 national championship game, but he was always a football player first. Josh Anderson back in before Kyle Bowen takes his second free throw. Gales back to within 3 with 4:39 to go. Trying to find Bassey inside. Again, Toss is actually 10 pounds heavier than Bassey. He's been banging all night. Here we go. Bassey rises quickly, missed the shot. And St. Mary's has a chance to tie it up.
You know, again, Toss has done a nice job not giving him any angles. You know, even when Bassey has caught it deeper than you would want, Toss has done a nice job leveling him off and not giving him any angles, forcing a shot over Toss's length.
Tommy Kuhse, they leave him wide open, but he couldn't tie it up. Bassey clears another rebound.
It's a big shot because they're going to go under, as most teams have all year, on Tommy Kuhse. That thing is right there.
He's at 28% on the year coming in. Now 1 of 4 tonight. 7 to shoot. Hollingsworth, no. Nice defense by Kuhse. Both teams will be in the bonus with their next foul. And a fairly clean game in that regard. Logan Johnson, second team all-conference, gives it up. Dukas in the lane. It's a 1-point game.
I don't know what the defender's doing here, Luke Frampton. I mean, where are you going? You just let him go right by, and a nice little float ski, Doug Sherman. Down the stretch of this game, 9 points in the second half, and they're throwing it to him. When he's gotten himself in some space, he's been much more efficient tonight. Not as good on the block, but right there when he gets an angle. Matthias Toss done a nice job cutting off his angle all night long. Bassey's had to go get some of his own stuff, be it on that screen roll, in transition, on the offensive glass. 17 points, 11 rebounds, a ho-hum double-double, as we've become accustomed to with Charles Bassey. He's going to be big down the stretch, Doug.
Yeah, that's his 17th double-double, second most in the country this year. And he has scored the Hilltoppers' last 8 points in this game as they cling to a 1-point lead. Final 3 minutes of regulation. The winner advances to the quarterfinals to face either Ole Miss or Louisiana Tech. And keeping the pressure on that St. Mary's defense was Josh Anderson. That's the 7th team foul against the Gales. And so Anderson, who's third in Conference USA at 85% from the line, will head to the stripe, while Kyle Bowen, who picked up the foul, looks like he's going to head out of the ball game. And back in comes Dan Fotu as Josh Anderson out of Madison Prep Academy in Baton Rouge misses the front end of the 1-and-1, and St. Mary's with a chance to reclaim the lead. St. Mary's led by as many as 7 early in the game, but they've been trailing pretty much ever since. Toss. Look for cutters. Now he's just going one-on-one over the left shoulder, and Bassey got a piece.
Randy Bennett wanted a foul. I thought that was good defense. I thought Bassey did a nice job walling up there.
Foul on the rebound against Western Kentucky.
This is at times an immovable force, Charles Bassey at 240 pounds. And Toss does a nice job trying to crab dribble, but once you try to go to that jump hook, that length and shot blocking instinct of Bassey takes over. I thought that was pretty well defended. Not a good shot by Bassey on the other end though. A force that ends up leading to a foul on the offensive glass there, and Matthias Toss a chance to take the lead here.
And that was the 4th foul on Bassey, by the way. He and Johnson for St. Mary's both now with 4. Toss, no. Knocked out of bounds. Bassey the last to touch. St. Mary's retains possession.
They missed free throws for both teams over the last minute here, coming up big.
Kuzi. He rejects the screen from Toss, now gives it up to his center, who hands it back to the 5th-year senior point guard. 7 seconds to shoot. Off the spin. So close was Dukas to retaking the lead, but he gets his own miss. Kuzi again. Keeps the dribble. Touch pass. Toss. Bottled up. No panic with 6 on the shot clock. And a whistle on the drive. Is it a held ball or a foul? It is a foul against the Hilltoppers.
I thought Toss had a shot here. Oh, before that, there's and I don't see a foul. I mean, I see him grabbing the ball, Doug.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was a clean reach in by Anderson. And so now Logan Johnson takes his turn at a 1-and-1. He can't make the first.
Man. Free throws.
They're not so free. Timeout. Western Kentucky. We'll step away with timeout on the floor. Final 1:22 when we come back. With Chris Patola, I'm Doug Sherman in Frisco, Texas. We do have some fans in the stands getting to see a good one, although, Chris, we've not seen very good free throw shooting in the last couple of minutes.
No, we have not. And in a one-point game, it's come up big. You know, that last trip down for St. Mary's, Toss had a chance at 2 free throws, missed the front end. And the same thing with Bowen. Or Logan Johnson, rather.
And those are the only 2 missed free throws of the night for the Gales, both front ends in the final 2 minutes. This is Rawls. Throws it up to the bucket, no. Rebound Toss. 1:05 to go, and again, St. Mary's with a chance to reclaim that lead. Kuzi reverses course. For the lead. It's good, Alex Dukas. 67-65, St. Mary's.
And again, an assist from Tommy Kuzi. Just a roll and replace off the screen, and a great throwback.
Give him 11 assists. The answer at the other end. Bassey ties it up for Western Kentucky. Kuzi gets the call from his head coach, Randy Bennett. About 6-second difference between the clocks. Here comes the screen from Toss. 6 to shoot. Kuzi lost the basketball. 8 seconds to go. The Hilltoppers can win it. On the drive to the bucket, a whistle. And heading to the free throw line for a chance to take the lead back will be the Hilltoppers.
An uncharacteristic turnover on the other end by Tommy Kuzi. Leads to this, and that's a good call. That's a block and a great decision here by Hollingsworth to just drive that thing. You had the defense in transition, and an outstanding job by Hollingsworth.
Hollingsworth, one of 4 Hilltoppers in double figures. He and Bassey both with 19 points to lead all scorers. He's a perfect 4 for 4 from the line tonight, 85% on the year. Hilltoppers back up by 1.
Well, St. Mary's does have a timeout, but you could also, again, catch Western Kentucky in transition. Get it out as quickly as you can, outlet it as far as you can, and push.
Reason for Coach Bennett to smile. His team still has time. 3.3 seconds remaining. Down by 2. This is the first round of the men's NIT in North Texas. St. Mary's has come back from double digits down, but now they need a big play, Chris, to keep this thing going.
Yeah, I mean, 3.3 seconds is a lifetime. If you can catch somebody on the run, you're going to be able to get a pretty good shot at this. Because, again, Rick Stansbury is telling his team not to foul. We don't want to foul. Keep the ball in front of you.
St. Mary's has used its final timeout. So both teams out of timeouts. And so go back to what you were thinking, Chris. What is St. Mary's going to do here? Obviously, Kuzi's going to have the ball in his hands.
Yeah, if it's under 3 seconds, Doug, 2.5 or less, the pass becomes very important in terms of making up some ground and distance. With 3.3, again, if you catch Kuzi on the run, he can get himself into a good position in the full court to be able to make a play or certainly kick out to somebody. If you're Western Kentucky, you want to put length and size on the ball, on the inbound passer, and you want to try to keep everything in front of you. You don't want to foul, and you can't give up a 3. You can't give up an open 3.
Well, for St. Mary's, Kuzi's got 17 points, Toss with 13, and Dukas, who is 3 for 5 on 3-pointers, has 11 points, all viable options. And that doesn't even bring into account their second-team all-conference guard, Logan Johnson, number 0. So lots of options, and let's see what the Gales can come up with in the final 3.3 seconds. Well, there we see Johnson look like off the floor. The inbound comes to Jabe Mullins. Before the horn, no! And the shot by Matthias Toss turns Western Kentucky into a winner, 69-67, and on to the quarterfinals in the NIT.
Nice job there by Western Kentucky, not allowing Kuzi to be the guy. Nicely defended there on the end. What a game.
So the season comes to an end for St. Mary's. Western Kentucky on to the quarterfinals against either Ole Miss or Louisiana Tech. That'll do it for us. Let's send you off to SportsCenter.